everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you are in the world, we've got several people that have come from a long way. Welcome to our annual Kidscreen briefing event. And it's the time where we look at how the industry is and what the marketplace is. And we're going to have some views today on how to make the opportunities and how you harness them. Because we know that things have been shifting sands, and in our eco-structure, we want to give you food for thought so that you can think about what the right thing for you to do is. While this session is useful for any market, at this time of year, we've got that special focus on Kidscreen and the summit in San Diego. So we look at how best you can arrive there gracefully, and how you can make the most out of what's on offer. And that includes information about the UK delegation, for those that haven't decided whether you're coming or not yet. It's a chance for you to reflect on whether to go to the US. For everybody, it's how to make the best out of Kidscreen, whether you're there or simply to learn more about where we are in the market right now. So to start with, just a little note about the support we get from taking the British delegation to Kidscreen. The Department of Business and Trade support us immensely and have done for years. They were the instigator of the delegation. For us, it's really important that they support the industry as a whole. It's much bigger than just the one thing. To have the Department of Business and Trade behind us is immensely useful on so many counts for the entire industry, but also for you as individuals. So what's up for today? We're going to start with an overview of the logistics. So as I welcome you, I'm Sarah Baines and I run the Creative Garden. I also co-lead the delegation to Kidscreen, and I'm deputy chair of the advisory board. And I want to welcome others that are going to be here today, particularly in the section on navigating the market. Ros was going to be joining us. Unfortunately, she's been called away, so she's done us a video so she can share with us. We have Lauren from the Children's Media Conference. We have Robin Gladman, who it will be freelance, currently Ardman, he'll explain later. We have Tatiana from Bajuba, who's very kindly broken into her Thanksgiving celebrations, where she's got a house full of people to join us. Jon Rennie from Cloth Cat, who is our independent voice in the mix, who's going to talk about how it is for independence. We've got Maggie Wilkins-Hobbs, who's from Brunico. Brunico, one of the titles and events they have is Kidscreen. So they have quite a wide range. Maggie is the associate publisher at Brunico. And we have Adam Woodgate from the Insights family, who will be giving us data that they have at the Insights family on what's happening now and what they expect the trends to be early into the new year. So welcome, Maggie.
Hi, Sarah.
What would be really useful, particularly at this juncture, we've got new faces and we've got people that have been before, and we've got those that are curious about what this is about. They may not be coming this year, but they're looking at what's happening. It would be great if you could take us through the benefits for the new people as well as for those that have been before, because it really is this year, what can we do if we go there? So particularly now we're bedded in at San Diego, I'm going to pass the figurative mic over to you.
Thank you. So as Sarah said, my name is Maggie and I am the associate publisher of Kidscreen at Brunico. So my day-to-day role is that I oversee sponsorship and advertising spend for the entire brand, but I also work very closely with the international delegation organizers, including the CMC, to ensure their participation is as impactful as possible. I've been very privileged to work on Kidscreen in some capacity for the past 11 years, and I'm thrilled to welcome both new and returning UK attendees to California for Kidscreen Summit 2025. This year's event takes place from February 9th to 12th at the Marriott Marquis San Diego. And I can't wait to share with you what makes this event special and the premier destination for kids entertainment professionals. So let's get started. What is Kidscreen? So just a brief explanation of our brand for those who are new. First, I would say that Kidscreen is the leading international trade publication for the kids entertainment industry. We have a magazine which is published quarterly, and it offers an in-depth analysis of trends, market shifts, and opportunities across all areas of the business, including TV production, licensing, retail marketing, gaming, publishing, and more. Our cross-disciplinary coverage mirrors the interconnected nature of this industry, making it very unique. Beyond print, Kidscreen offers a daily newsletter called Kidscreen Daily, which drives readers to our website, and of course our flagship event, Kidscreen Summit, which takes place each February with roughly 2,000 decision makers, which come together for 4 days of networking and learning. Next slide, please. So why attend Kidscreen? It's a huge investment, and we know that, both with travel expenses and the registration costs. So why attend? First reason is to grow your business. Network with creators, buyers, and distribution partners from around the world, and build meaningful relationships and discover fresh talent. Number 2, stay informed. Participate in panels and roundtables to understand current market needs, opportunities, and challenges. Engage in vital industry conversations. Number 3, reignite your passion. Share innovative ideas, explore emerging trends, and leave inspired to drive your business forward. And yes, you do have fun doing it at the event. Next slide, please. This is just a quick snapshot of some of the companies who have attended in the past. Our attendees list reads like a who's who's of the kids entertainment industry. Year after year, we've been proud to host major global players. Our delegate list will be going live within the next week or so, so make sure to keep an eye on our website. As you can see, we've had some major broadcasters and platforms such as Netflix, Disney Channel, BBC Children's, Nickelodeon, and YouTube. International studios and producers like DreamWorks Animation, Moodbug Entertainment, Aardman Animations, and Magic Lake Pictures. TV distribution partners including WildBrain, Cake Entertainment, and Advantageous Kids and Family, to just name a few, and licensing powerhouses, which we're seeing a lot of growth in, including Hasbro, Lego, and Warner Brothers Consumer Products. These companies visit Kidscreen each year to discover content, connect with co-production partners, and explore new business opportunities. Being in the same room as these industry leaders is an invaluable opportunity to build your network and grow your business. Next slide, please. International delegations. So as you can see, we've had quite a few over the past few years. Our international delegations have grown over the years, with Canada, France, and the UK consistently leading the charge. Delegations also include representation from South Korea, KOKA, Japan, represented by VIPO, Spain by ISIX, Italy, and Latin American regions, including Brazil and Colombia. So why do agencies invest in delegations? They really foster partnerships with existing co-production treaty allies. They promote the sale of content and services to international audiences, and they showcase their regions as global leaders in the kid content innovation. CMC's commitment to making the most out of its missions to Kidscreen is unparalleled. The UK at Kidscreen attendees get a ton of support from their team here, and I believe their attention and commitment to their group sets the group apart from any of the other international delegations. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about the types of people who attend. So our diverse audience includes a mix of seasoned veterans and emerging talent. So you get people who have been in the industry for decades, and some who it's their first year, they're just exploring the industry as a whole. We have TV programming executives like broadcasters and streamers looking for fresh content. We have producers, both independent and studio-backed creators for kids programming. Distribution companies, professionals who can help expand your content's global reach, digital content creators, innovators working on games, apps, and other digital-first platforms, and licensors and marketers, professionals exploring brand extensions, retail strategies, and IP opportunities. This year, we expect attendees to focus on collaborations that foster unexpected revenue streams and inspire new ways to captivate young audiences. Next slide, please. So how many attendees are there? We see a range between 1,800 and 2,200 delegates each year. Last year, we welcomed almost 2,000 professionals from just over 50 countries. Delegates represent every major kids content market, giving you access to decision makers across the entire spectrum of the industry. What makes us unique is that we're genre-specific focused. Unlike broader markets, Kidscreen Summit is solely focused on the kids entertainment industry, ensuring all conversations and opportunities are highly relevant to your goals. And we're intimate yet comprehensive. So with just 2,000 attendees, it's large enough to meet a diverse group, but intimate enough to have meaningful conversations. Next slide, please. So it is a high ticket price. So what's included with your registration? So you get access to all the keynotes, the Q&As, panels, buyer presentations, and networking events. You get an exclusive hotel discount that's only available to attendees. You get access to the Kidscreen Awards ceremony and after party. You get daily meals and coffee and cocktail receptions from Monday to Wednesday. And on Sunday, we have our Super Bowl party this year. The delegate lounge access and patio access for informal meetings, and our networking platform, Kidscreen Exchange, to connect before the event. You also get access to our networking opportunities, which are for pre-booking meetings as well as roundtable discussions. Next slide, please. So networking is at the heart of Kidscreen Summit. It really makes us different. Here's just a closer look at some of their most impactful opportunities. Speed pitching is the most important, and I know that a couple of our panelists today are going to talk a little bit more about their experiences in this session. Speed pitching is very similar to speed dating for the content world. These 8-minute one-on-one meetings are perfect for connecting with decision makers who can greenlight your project. The slots are competitive, so plan ahead and prioritize your top choices. These are done also through a lottery system online in advance. It's to make it the most fair as possible. And we also have a wait line on site for those who don't score the slots that they want. Mix and Mingle is a lively structured session where you rotate tables to meet key executives from channels, streamers, and studios. This is a high energy introduction platform that sets the stage for deeper conversations later. Plus, it's a lot of fun. 30 Minutes With, which is also a very popular session, is first come, first serve, so it doesn't require pre-sign up, but you hear directly from major industry investors such as Netflix, Amazon, or BBC Children's. These sessions include a Q&A and opportunities for casual meet and greets, and the room is to capacity. So it's a more intimate group where you can really hear about the strategies of each of these platforms and hear about what they're looking for and what's really working for them. We also have tons of parties and events. So the social calendar includes, as I said, the Super Bowl party, viewing party this year, which we had a couple of years ago in Miami. Great for our international guests who don't typically watch the Super Bowl, but want to enjoy it with the group. We also have our kickoff cocktail, which is going to be on Monday this year, and our post Kidscreen Awards festivities. These are great opportunities to just have fun with other attendees and meet in a more natural way. You see a lot of business cards being switched over and a lot of laughter together. Keep an eye on your emails. We do announce all of our networking opportunities in advance, as well as the dates that you'll be required for pre-signups and lotteries. So just make sure that you keep an eye on that. Next slide, please. San Diego. Our venue is the Marriott Marquis. It is situated on the waterfront. And it's modern, it's light, it's filled with windows, so you get the sunshine coming in all day. You also get the exclusive discounted room rates there. So make sure that you book in advance. The link is on our website on the venue page so that you can access that special rate. Weather in San Diego. Now, I'm not going to promise you that it's going to be bright and sunny this year because I did that in the past, and last year it rained the entire event, except for opening and closing cocktails. But usually San Diego is typically mild and sunny and perfect for taking breaks outdoors and on our outdoor terrace, which is a nice break from the snowy or raining UK, or for myself, Canada. It's nice to be in the warmer weather. It's also situated near the Gaslamp Quarter, which is just steps away from the hotel, which gives you lots of options for restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues for evening networking. No need to take an Uber to get to dinner. It's a safe walking distance from the hotel. It's also near a little area called Seaport Village, which is just a short walk down the boardwalk, which has great options for casual lunch meetings. There's a great Mexican restaurant there, a couple takeout counters as well. And it's nice, just a place to take some coffee breaks and have an outdoor walk to break up your day. The location really combines professional convenience with the relaxed vibe that inspires creativity. And we're really enjoying the relocation to San Diego. Next slide, please. So Kidscreen Exchange is our platform, and it gives you a head start on building connections before the event. So everybody who registers for Kidscreen Summit gets access to the Kidscreen Exchange platform. It's a place where you can showcase your work. You can upload your portfolio, pictures, pitches for others to explore. You can also use it to schedule meetings, so you can reach out to other attendees and pre-book meetings before the event takes place. It's also where our lottery system is placed for speed pitching and some of our networking opportunities. So it's really important to log in once you are registered, update your profile, and just be ready to do those things. And it's really designed to kind of help you pre-organize and determine what your schedule will look like for Kidscreen Summit. Next slide, please. So that's kind of my quick run around of the event and our brand. Please put your Q&A questions in the box, but you're also welcome to reach out to me anytime. Brian is my colleague who oversees our registration team. As I mentioned, I'm the associate publisher and oversee our sponsorship and advertising spend, but reach out to either of us and we're happy to answer any questions you have post this seminar.
Thank you very much indeed, Maggie. If anybody, Maggie's going to have to hop off, so if anybody's got questions for Maggie, please put them in the Q&A now. I've got a quick one. On the database and the list, we can normally get to a file where we get an Excel spreadsheet that we can download. When will that be available for people that have registered?
Yeah, once Excel or once our Exchange platform goes live, which should be in the next few weeks, you'll be able to see the delegate list there and then download the Excel spreadsheet of the attendee list. The one thing to quickly note is that there are no emails on that download list. We do have the option now that attendees can add their email address to their Exchange profile, but it will not be on the downloaded list just for privacy reasons.
And that's constantly updated. So our top tip that is to keep refreshing and don't just do one download and then forget to upload.
Yeah.
Now you've just been at ASS in Taipei.
Yes.
So would you like to just give us a quick snapshot of what was happening there and any of the trends and what you picked up there that we might be able to throw forward into 2025?
Yeah, so I mean, other than being really jet lagged, I found the trip very inspiring, actually. Asia is still very much doing business and looking for international partners. Taika, who is the Taiwan Creative Content Agency and who was our hosting partner for the Asian Animation Summit this year, is a well-funded trade group that seems to be on a mission to support a rapid development of their animation industry. And they're bringing 5 producers to Kidscreen Summit this year for the first time, but they're really keen magazine to connect with international studios to attract more production work to Taiwan. But as the chairman of Taika said, show me your projects and I'll show you the money. They're really, really interested in kind of financing and looking at growing Taiwan as an international player. So if you're looking for that kind of partner, highly recommend hitting up Taika when you're at Kidscreen Summit. So I would say that was the main kind of takeaway from it. But also, you know, we had a group of international VIPs who are still very welcoming, they're welcoming to hearing new content. So they may not be buying as much, the major broadcasters, but they're still interested in hearing your new ideas and looking for inspiration for the future.
And obviously, it's still relatively early days for the list, but
yes,
over the past couple of years, we've had new platforms, new types of people coming in. Do you reckon that they're positive and that they're looking to open that up?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a huge growth in, you know, major retail players who are looking at getting into the content space. There's more licensing companies coming. It's really about finding new revenue streams and not necessarily traditional broadcasters and streamers. So I definitely recommend, you know, scanning the list when it does come out and really think about how these people can help you know, move your business forward. You know, the industry is changing and it's not the traditional way of doing things anymore. And it just kind of needs more creativity. So take a look at the list. There are opportunities there. There are new business players there who are interested in meeting with content creators in particular.
And Kidscreen obviously is a magazine as well. And I think you and Jocelyn have very kindly pulled together some links for us, which Lauren will put in towards the end. But in general, what type of articles are coming through that people should look at and look for, whether they're coming to Kidscreen or not? It's free access for them to look at the content and read the articles.
Yeah, definitely recommend checking out kidscreen.com. Also subscribing to our daily newsletter, Kidscreen Daily. So that is free. And that gives you a snapshot of kind of what the industry is doing on a daily basis. Any big major news of deals. We don't do sponsored content in our newsletter and on our magazine. So it's real news and it's important to the industry. It's not pay to play. I know the articles that we've kind of curated for this group are just snapshots of the content that's covered in our magazine. But again, it's just looking at, you know, not your typical revenue streams. Brands, whether they're really established or just new, starting out, are looking at new models for bringing in money and expanding, you know, their reach. So I would really look at those. And then also, if you're interested in subscribing to our print magazine, you can do that on our website.
That's wonderful. Well, we'll let you go and catch up with everything that went on hold last week. And thank you very much indeed for fitting us in between everything that you're doing. So thank you very much, Maggie.
Thank you.
So before we move on, we're still on Kidscreen, and Ros Atelli was not able to join us. So we've got a video from her because she joined the delegation for the first time last year. And we thought it'd be really interesting to hear from somebody who's been in other guises some years ago, but was looking at what she could get out of going to a market as a relatively fresh indie. So if we can have a look at Ros's video.
Hi everyone, it's Ros from Big Little Fish TV. So going to Kidscreen this year wasn't actually my first experience, but it was the first time that I'd gone with the UK delegation. And to be honest, there was a stark difference between the two experiences. I think as part of the UK delegation, it was amazing just to find this community of people who were all out there with the same mission, but also being part of that delegation and part of the WhatsApp group. just gave me insights and support that I might not have found had I not been part of that group. One of the best things about the delegation is having the guarantee of a space to meet. So basically booking spaces for meetings with other parties. It meant that you didn't have to scramble around looking for other places to meet. So actually that security was really, really helpful for us. I went out with the expectation of actually meeting lots of people, introducing the projects, but actually it was the beginning of a journey. One of the best things about being part of the UK delegation were the breakfast briefings. And yeah, they were quite early, but if I'm honest, it really was worth getting up the hour earlier to get there. The best one for me was meeting Sarah Wallen-Jack from PBS and then chatting with her afterwards and actually establishing a relationship with her from that point onwards. So I would say they're really informative, but actually really practical as well. So make the effort and get there. And as well as all the meetings, there's also the social side. So as part of the UK delegation, you'll get to hear about dinners, the UK party, any kind of mix and mingles, the official parties as well. And when you go, you will always know that there's a group of people that you can talk to. I know that it's absolutely worth going under the auspices of the UK delegation.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Lauren. I can hear you. uh, so Ros was with us last year, and she very kindly put that video together for us, where she was saying how much she got out of being with other people, and the learnings and the connections she was making were very different. You're director of operations at CNC, and you're also my partner, I would say in crime, but leading
In crime.
Kidscreen. Do you want to follow on from Ros and give us a quick rundown over sort of what jewels in the crown this year's delegation is offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully that was really helpful for you all to get a perspective from Ros, what with it being her first time on the delegation and an insight into her experience. So Ros mentioned some of the benefits there. So I'm just going to expand a little bit on those for you. So first off, obviously the price for the delegation is £450 plus VAT. You do need to be a UK company to be eligible, or a UK freelancer. Basically, you need to pay tax in the UK. That's the eligibility criteria. So part of being a member of the delegation does give you a reduced ticket price for the Kidscreen Summit. So you can get a ticket to the Kidscreen Summit for $1,595. So I believe that's the lowest rate that you're able to get now going forward, now that the early bird's finished as well. There isn't a deadline to that discount or anything. So, but what I would say is that now is the time that you need to be making meetings and looking who you want to meet. So I would book as soon as you can and not leave it too late. We also put your profile and company information onto our UK Kidscreen website. So that'll have all your information about you, contact details, what projects you've got and things like that. And it lumps everybody in the UK delegation together so everyone can find you. And you'll also have a part in the show reel as well, which is displayed in our UK area at Kidscreen on our UK stand. So one of the things that Ros mentioned as well is that there's a real sense of community and support that came with being part of the delegation. And that's something that we really do try to build and encourage within the group. So we offer support prior to Kidscreen. We have 2 advice clinics, which they take place on Zoom. One's on the 6th of December and one's on the 11th of January. So this is a space where you can come along, meet the team, meet me and Sarah, and probably Greg as well, who's our editorial director. And you can raise any questions or concerns that you might have before you get to San Diego. It's also a chance to meet other members of the UK delegation and share information and experiences as well. So we try to build a group that can also help itself. So you're getting all that experience from the different people that are on the delegation, and it'll assist you in getting those all important meetings. So we'll also keep you up to date throughout the process at those advice clinics and by email on any relevant information you need from Kidscreen to help you prepare. So I'll tend to go through the Kidscreen program and collate all the information on deadlines for speed pitching, all the sort of social events and networking events, which things need to be booked onto, which things you can just turn up to, and try and keep them all in one place so that I can sort of send them around and keep you in the loop, really. We'll also look at things like how to get the most out of that Kidscreen exchange that Maggie was talking about. So once that is published, sort of making sure that you're searching the right way for people, getting the download, making sure you're keeping up to date on it. And actually the delegation itself becomes quite a good information point on how they're finding people and how to export it. And so we make sure that you're targeting the right people and managing to get the meetings. And of course, the panel will pick up a bit later on about how to capitalise on those opportunities. During Kidscreen itself, we have a UK Kidscreen WhatsApp group, which keeps us all connected while at the event, sharing information. Only delegation members are on there, and it helps everybody out. It's all very proactive and friendly, and we're just there to sort of make the best of all the opportunities at Kidscreen that we can for you. Obviously, the breakfast briefings that Ros touched on as well, they are quite early, as she said, at 8:30. But you do hear from industry experts. You'll see all your other delegation members. They'll be there in the morning. And it's a really good way to start any relationships, not only just with the industry experts, but with other people in the delegation as well. And it's a good way to really start your day, get yourself ready for your first meeting of the day. And talking of meetings, that's the important one. So it's all about getting your meetings. And once you've got your meetings, where do you have them? So we have our own UK area, which has a certain number of tables, and that's solely for the use of the UK delegation. And we operate a booking system for that. It makes it a lot easier to have a place to go as a space, because space really is at a premium at Kidscreen. So once you've got your meeting, like Ros said, you don't want to be scrambling around trying to find a table somewhere. So it's good to have that area that you can go to. And of course, we have the UK social event as well, which takes place on the Saturday night before Kidscreen. So this year, we've got a really nice venue at the Rooftop Cinema Club in San Diego. This is a delegations event. So we try and invite as many international guests as we can. Any guests that you're talking to as a part of the delegation members, it's basically your reception. So anybody you want us to invite, we'll invite. And we'll try and get as many people as we can, key industry figures who can network with you at that event. So I think I've covered pretty much all of the benefits there, rattled through them a little bit. Overall, we're about making the UK delegation members just feel supported, make the most of every opportunity while they're in San Diego. So if there are any specific questions, pop them in the Q&A. And like Sarah says, we'll probably stay for extra questions and book on, basically, get your place registered.
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was a great précis. Thank you. So we're going to have a gear change at this point, because I let's face it, this year's been trickier than most. And so I'd very much like to thank and welcome our panel. And they're here to give you their expertise and insights into the opportunities that are out there, because that's what we're all looking for. Where are the opportunities? And this year, it's probably that we feel that they've been fewer and further between, and that the landscape's shifted. So we're going to really dive into a few key thoughts on how you can recalibrate before February, whether you're coming or whether you're not. I might say it's some homework for the winter break, regardless of whether you come, but it's to prep to get you ahead for next year. We've got Tatiana, who's going to cover international markets, particularly North America. Jon on resilience as an indie and how he sees the landscape. Robin's going to share his thoughts on pitching, with a special reference to Maggie's 8-minute speed pitching and what it's like to sit on the other side, and how he sees the opportunities. So we're going to, first of all, start with Adam Woodgate from Insights, because we need some insights and we need to really start thinking and looking at data that's available to us and how we can use that to either come up with ideas or shape the ideas or how to pitch them, depends where you are. But Adam, would you like to give us some thought provokers in general for the kids media industry?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I head up research solutions for the Insight family. We run global trackers of kids, teens, parents, and young adults in 22 countries around the world, including the UK. And the data I'm going to be showing today is from the UK. It's Q3 data, so that will be 1st of July of this year through to the end of September. We're obviously in Q4, but there's some interesting trends that we can see coming up. I've picked out 4 things. I could spend the afternoon with you talking about stuff we're seeing, but I think we're in a really interesting place right now. The first slide after this one talks about, if we move on, really I want to just frame this around 2 really key slides about where we are generationally. So touchscreen natives, as I call them, people may call them Generation Glass, Gen Alpha, whatever. This is a first generation that's entirely born in the 21st century, and they are predisposed to screens, you know, from really blinking at parents, seeing them as on tablets and smartphones. They have seen these devices, they have used them, and they've adapted to them really quickly. So they really are a connected generation that goes screen first. Their parents are likely to be millennials, not exclusively, but generally millennials, who kind of got to grips with technology to underpin their lives as the internet was slowly being introduced. And that's a really important point, because previous generations, like my generation, Gen X, were very much sort of, you know, not digital natives, therefore much more inclined for the physical world. So these devices have been the entertainers, the nannies, the educators, really since they've been born. And that's really important. Now, but the next slide, though, goes and shows kind of the counter of this, which is this is the most disrupted generation that we've had post-World War II. First of all, they were born just after the end of the credit crunch when the banks nearly collapsed. So they kind of started on wobbly ground. All this time, one of the constants in the news is climate change and climate catastrophe. Then along comes 2020, and for about 18 months, their lives were disrupted, despite being the generation that were least affected by it. But COVID, literally, schools closed, can't meet friends, can't meet distant family. All of a sudden, this group of kids who are absolutely out there to play were suddenly very restricted. Come out of COVID, and we enter into a cost of living crisis in many countries because of supply situations, and now we have conflicts in Middle East and Ukraine. So there are if anyone's read the book The Anxious Generation, you will know where I'm coming from. It happens to be that all these are seas, that we're in the world of the rough seas right now. So that in mind, excuse me, we'll move on to our next slide. So that's influencing the kind of content that kids want, and it's influencing the way they're looking for content, both especially new stuff. So the next slide, where we move on to, will show really what they're looking for, which is liberating, empowering entertainment that gives them a confidence so they can carve out a personal identity outside that of their family. How are they doing it? Well, I've already told you that they're doing it on their connected screens. No other generation, if you think pre-2010 and the launch of the tablet, there was no other screen that allowed you to curate your own media life. They were very much shared screens. They're either on laptops or desktops, which weren't particularly comfortable for viewing entertainment, or the big screen in the corner of the room. Now we've got these connected screens that we curate our own media lives, and that's what kids do. We also have the advent of the UGC platform. In the noughties, the launch of YouTube and Roblox, and then in the last decade, along comes TikTok, which was musically in its formative stage, and of course Format. And these are platforms where not only are kids making and playing and creating, but they also support that creation and making. So That's a liberating and an empowerment. Now we've got AI. That's coming along and it's driving innovation. So kids who can't necessarily do great designs or great characters or backgrounds are using Midjourney, ChatGPT, other AI platforms to fill in their skills gap until they upskill. Spoke to kids who are making games in Roblox, and they're learning to code, and they're using these generative AI platforms to support that learning. And so this is empowerment. And then when we come to the content, and there's a picture there of a show called How. And one of the things that you'll notice if you go on YouTube is the plethora of videos that show a kid how to do something, how to get to a next level in a game. In an adult space, it might have been how to change a plug or a fuse. That's not needed now, but you get the sense that they want to know how to do it for themselves. They want that empowerment. And content is starting to come through that does that. Gabby's Dollhouse, whilst not truly interactive, allows kids to, shout at the screen in response. It's a bit like Blue's Clues. We've also got Ask the Story Box, where there's the kids can take part in the entertainment. Puss in Boots was the very first kind of branching narrative that you're seeing in video games. If you look at FC24, you can go into manager level and actually become the player or the manager and control the team. This is empowering content that kids are looking for. And it really does play to this generation's desire to interact and immerse themselves in the brands and content that they love. Next slide. Another point is it doesn't have to be animated to be a success. The next slide will show you 3 pie charts. And the first pie chart is for the 3 to 5 year old age group in the UK. The second is 6 to 10s. And then we've got young teens in the final one. The blue area is animation. The orangey color, coppery color is live action. And then we've also got a little bit of other formats in there. Now, clearly, so what we've looked at here is the top shows, and we've categorized them by format. So the top shows by age group in the UK for that Q3 of 2024 period. You can see that more than 8 out of 10 preschool shows are animated, but still 1 in 10 are live action. And what I'm trying to say here is that whilst the volume of shows are animated, if you look at what's available, it's kind of self-effacing. There's far more animated shows in this space than there are live action. Now, we have a generation of kids, the touchscreen natives, who see no borders with the internet, who are open to content from all over. They're as likely to want to watch something that originates in Asia or Latin America as they are from UK or Europe. So bear that in mind when thinking about content, whether it's live action animation. Also this generation, and certainly those middle graders, which is what the Americans call the 6 to 10 group, we would say middle childhood in the UK, they are very much open to seeing themselves around the world and what other kids in other countries do. Less of that issue of traveling across borders, and less of the issue of needing to dub. Lots of kids will put the subtitles on and read the subtitles and listen to the words because they're living in a text-based world. It's what they've grown up with. So you can see that 7 out of 10 shows in the middle grade space are animated, a quarter are live action. And then when we get into young teens, it completely flips around, whereas the majority of shows that kids are watching are live action. But still, proof that animation works for young teens in the fact that over a third of those shows that we measured all fall into the animation format. So it's a case of, maybe pushing boundaries, testing things. And certainly in there's the hybrid, which is like Gabby's Dollhouse, where there's some live action and some animation. If we move on to the next slide. I think my biggest frustration that I hear is when I talk to, at conferences and when I talk to customers is about unable to monetize kids because there's so much regulation. Advertisers, there's HFSS, high fat, sugar, salt issues. In other countries, there's issues of advertising to kids. We all know of COPPA regulations about targeting, and tracking kids online. There's age-appropriate design codes. There is GDPR in Europe, so there is a lot of issues that mean that kids are hard to monetize. I get that. They are. If the next slide, though, kind of shows the lifetime value of a customer. So we accept that children are hard to monetize. They are not impossible. They have pocket money, they have pester power, they have some level of influence on family purchases, the weekly shop, particularly if it's something that kids, are partaking in. But they also have influence on other aspects, such as the family entertainment, where they're going on holiday. Certainly they do influence, either because of, pester power, they do influence choices like streaming services and TV services in the home. So they're hard to monetize, but the moment they reach 18, they become easier to monetize. And towards the end of their lives, they become very profitable customers. My argument with that under 18 comes from when I was presenting at the Copenhagen TV Festival, and I met the head of TV2, who came up to me and said, "We don't have a kids brand. We don't serve kids, but thank you for this, because I now know what I need to know for the audience that's coming through when they'll be moving into our programming." And I think there is an element of being prepared, but also trying to have feeders as to, how you can attract that content in, and how you build an audience, a legacy audience, as, even if your brand isn't necessarily a kid's brand. Next slide. Okay, so the other aspect that we're starting to see now is obviously, digital is huge for this audience, but the tactile element is still there in kids. Kids want to touch and feel and experience and be in the moment. So if we move on to the next slide, this chart really shows a breakdown of kids up to 15 and how they spend their time in a typical weekday. So breaking out all their activities, including sleep and school, which is lumped in with lots of other things, such as eating, maybe being, doing family chores and family activities. So you can see 2/3 of their lives are predetermined. Then if we look at what's not predetermined, we can see that around about 20%, a 20th of their life, around about 5%, is being active. So that's sports, doing stuff outside, taking part in activities. About 5% is spending time with friends. So for younger kids, it's probably playing. As kids get older, it's going to be socializing and doing stuff together. You'll notice the toys and games section really drops down quite quick. But the media day, which consists of TV and games and social and internet and music and reading, is around about 1/5 to just under 1/4 of the day, depending on the age of the child. And this is kind of the point that I want to get to, which is that a lot of the battle is for the colored area of this chart. A lot of the day you can't tap into. So you're battling with brands that are already in this space. So if you're trying to get in the toy space with consumer products, you're battling with the choice out there. What I always say is kids have 5 or 6 brands they're absolutely passionate about. So as your new IP comes along, and it has been done, think about it with Fortnite, think about it with Bluey, Coco Melon, there are other examples. They've come in and they've pulled in a new audience that really has grown to love those. So it's not impossible, but it's hard. So you're vying for this time. You're vying for the 1/3 of the kid's life that they have more influence on. And I think what I'm saying in the digital to physical, if we move on in the slides, is that we're starting to see that digital space kids want to bring into their real lives. So just like when they went to the movies, they'd watch Star Wars, they'd act out as Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker, or they'd act out TV shows, or they'd want the toy from the TV show, like the Bob the Builder Digger, or the Fireman Sam engine. They're now wanting to have things that relate to the digital world in the physical space. So what I've got here is a table which shows the proportion of purchases related to video games in the toy space, and the proportion of things that YouTube has driven to physicality. And, you know, a few years ago, it was always the assumption that YouTube would never be able to turn, you know, what it was doing would never be able to drive consumer product sales. You'll notice how much YouTube certainly does do that, particularly with the under nines and under audience. Video games too are able to drive kids' purchases. So if you think Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite toys that you'll see by Jazzwares out there hanging in the toy stores and the supermarkets, you can see that video games are driving books. So the Minecraft manual, annual or things like that. And then, of course, much more stable. It doesn't decline so quickly with age as apparel, clothing. You know, younger kids will happily wear the Minecraft t-shirt, and that will carry through as kids become older. And maybe they transfer to other video games like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. Point is that they're able to, they want the physical version of their favorite game. And of course, whilst in, you know, obviously games don't drive physical purchases of games, YouTube and YouTubers are getting kids into games. So if you think about, you know, really back at the start of sort of the noughties and the teens with the games that were coming through, and Minecraft's the obvious one for me with Dan TDM and Stampy Cat, that were really doing the walkthroughs of Minecraft. It really did drive kids into the Minecraft space because they enjoyed the videos and then would go and play the games. So a quick run through there, that's the last slide really, a quick run through there of some of the things we're seeing. So empowerment, you know, the kids movie, you know, it doesn't have to be animated. Kids wanting the digital, wanting to take the digital world into their physical space, because there's lots of things about the physical space that they can't experience in the digital space. So that kind of wraps up my look ahead for 2025. But I think there's lots more stuff to see that we're seeing, particularly coming in from Asia and other parts of the world, which I think we'll be watching as the year progresses.
Thank you so much, Adam. There was so much more that we can dig into. I've got some questions already. And as I said, if you've got questions, and I'm sure it's triggered lots of thoughts for you, Adam's here. So when we get to the Q&A, do put things in the Q&A and then we can ask Adam directly from you. And I'm sure at some point we'll be able to get Adam back to talk more about what's happening. And I'm sorry this is a run through, but I think it's really useful to get different viewpoints. So we thought what we needed to do was to go to North America and to see how others see us. So I'm delighted to have Tatiana from Bajuba Entertainment with us. She's joined, as I say, from her Thanksgiving. So we really are importing North America into the UK today. She's joined to give us her view on the global industry and how the UK can capitalise on expanding. And Tatiana, when we first met, you were based in the UK, so you really understand how we work and how we tick. And then you went back to America and work out of the US as well. Things have shifted a lot since then. And in particular, over the last couple of years, how do you think things have changed?
It's a much tougher market, but I think we're going through one of the toughest phases, definitely, that I've ever been in. But I think there's lights all coming in. I think I'm hoping that we're at rock bottom. So I think there's lots of opportunities. At the last market, I felt that there was a little bit more glimmer of being interested by the broadcasters of what we're doing. I mean, they certainly need to be on top and are looking for ideas and new things. Brands are a big part of the day-to-day ask, reviving brands. You know, there's that, because the market is so segmented, I think, with people in YouTube, they want to make sure that if kids are going to their platforms or their channels, that they're looking at things that there might be some brand recognition for, to play some safety in what they're doing. I think that we're certainly all starting to look at different ways to monetize things. In North America, people are looking for brands, as I said, and also looking to see that you can launch your project possibly on YouTube and come to them with millions of viewers. So you're already building a base. So if it's brand new, you're building the base and maybe bringing influencers on, or using a brand that's existing, or even going to toy companies first, like really coming with a 360-degree package that makes it more interesting and appetizing for them to pick up. Canada's been a tough market. And preschool is something that seems to be wanted more, but they'd want it Canadian first. I think that's a big thing that people are looking for in Canada when you're pitching, and come with your Canadian producer already attached as you're taking it to the broadcasters, because with money being tight, they need to prioritize minorities, they need to prioritize Canadians, Canadian content. So that's an interesting way in Canada. I think also, before we would go and pitch it to the broadcasters, they would say what they're interested in. We'd assemble a team. I think now more than ever, it's time to almost assemble your team first, and bring it in, so that you're more financed, that you're coming in with, say, you already have 50% in place. And that's hard to do, but there's some studios that are really willing to kick in money to own IP that used to once be service studios, and that's in Asia. I'm finding that. So.
And one of the things I've been saying for a few years is distributors are becoming a bit like the new broadcasters. And as a distributor, that people trying to navigate the whole globe is quite tricky if what you've been doing is creating and working in a very local environment. How do you think it's changed as a distributor in the way that you're perceived in the structure of things?
I think now more than ever, people are, because it's not such a straightforward path to broadcast, it's the time to have collaborations. It's the time for co-productions. It's the time to bring other partners on board. So as a distributor, we can pitch it in to because we need to have our ear to the ground where the money is, and where we can possibly bring pieces of that pie in for the financing. So I think the distributors are more the financiers, and if we have volume, we could potentially set up a channel or work on niche. I'm finding that in the US, in the fast channels, just setting up a fast channel itself is difficult, because again, how do you work through the clutter? But setting up niche channels, I'm hearing that, like horror niche, that might not necessarily be for kids, but kids horror. So setting up niche kind of profiles that you can then push out is interesting. So,
and what type of brands? Because I think we've talked about a few, and we've talked about the list, and I'm going to be encouraging people to be curious across the board. But what type of areas do you think? You talked about where the money is,
right.
And there isn't going to be one source, because we'd all be there. But where do you think people should be looking for those partnerships in order to be able to go and get the money?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, to hear that Chick-fil-A is going to start a platform and offer programming. I think there's different SVODs that have cropped up, and there's the ones that are monetizing and making money. Go to them and see if there's financing, because they might be able to kick in some money to put projects together. And I'm not talking the big ones like Netflix. I'm talking about smaller ones. In the US, in Canada, there's faith-based networks that are doing well and bringing in money, and they're just looking for good quality content, and their asks are the same. They don't necessarily need to be religious, but if you want to explore that area, you can too. Muslim Kids TV in Canada is growing larger, and they're bringing in more content. I think the other things to do is, now more than ever, LinkedIn is really an interesting platform, and has become more platform. So do research on that, and do the research that you're seeing at Kidscreen, and look towards other producers and other animation studios. And if your project toy companies, bring them in already early. so that you can start building up your brand, because it's really about brand building.
And just before we close, one thing when we had our chat, you mentioned that there's lots of innovation happening, and you were talking about some of the tools we might be able to use that makes our lives a little easier in order to look at what's going on. Do you want to give us a snapshot of the one that I mentioned?
Well,
she's going, which one did I mention? You had
yes, I need a little bit more prompt, because we had such a wide-ranging conversation the other day. But I do believe that if you look towards Asia, there's and also the US and the UK, if they're producing, they might have money to do some packaging for you, a trailer, designs, and they're coming in as partners right away. I think trying to bundle together with a few people to do some YouTube projects. I think right now there's more power to more groups coming together, and that is also with toy companies and starting on YouTube and going to other brands that might be able to help you. Like, I'm talking things like looking under rocks, looking for all kinds of places to find something. If something that you're doing has construction in it, go to John Deere, go see if somebody has money to help put into it. And it's more of a sponsorship kind of thing as an advertising ask for the broadcaster. Then it just shows that there's other companies involved. So
and I think where I was going, and we do have to move on, but there was some software you were talking about that helps track what's happening on your content, which means for those people that are slightly more removed, there's a quick, neat way round to finding out what's working and what isn't working without
That's right.
Up a whole
That's right. Thank you. So there's one in particular that I know of called Screen Miner, where if you're launching on YouTube, because that's the other secret, right? No, not secret, but way forward is launch on YouTube, launch on Snap on Insta, and try to build the audience ratings. But then you don't know, is my algorithm working? What's working? And there are a couple platforms, one I know of in particular, that will take all feed in from all these sources, and they'll say, this in particular is hitting the right notes. And I know one producer that was using that and launching on YouTube, and they found out that the side characters were actually getting more hits than the main characters, and have now started bringing them into the fore. So it's really, you can use YouTube as your research platform. And there's a lot of companies too doing digital first that I would look at as well to go and partner with.
So thank you very much indeed for being a fount of wisdom. And I'm going to say thank you and ask Robin if he can join us.
Thanks for having me.
John, it's John. John. Oh. Hey.
Hello there.
Hi, John. Now, we've been hearing that there are green shoots, that things might not be, there's optimism, but it's still a very different market. And as an independent who has flexed and been resilient, we thought it'd be really useful to hear your view of how people can look at 2025 and just recalibrate so they start strong.
Yeah, I think it has been a very difficult year or two, and for us it's been the same. And we've been in some ways quite fortunate because we are an animation and game studio. So we've seen more interest in the game side. I think that's partly a reflection of where the audience is. The audience is going to a variety of platforms. So exactly as Adam said, and Tatiana as well, people are building kids are following brands. They're following them on different platforms on their own terms. And I think that's where we have to start following them. So as a studio, we are creating ideas, but now we're not just talking about how can we make an animation series, we're talking about how can we make a series and a game. How can we think about the life of this project now, just beyond the immediate broadcast? And even not thinking, just linear broadcast, we're thinking of how each platform will play its part in building the brand. and I've been going to Kidscreen for a number of years. Been on delegation, I think, sort of 8 times now. I think I can't remember. It all blurs into one. But it's been quite clear that the conversations have changed over the years. That people are looking for, and particularly platforms are looking for, some additional energy to come with a project, not simply just a nice idea. They want to see that you've got a plan for the future, that you've got a way of building your brand, you've got a way of finding your audience and bringing the audience with you as well.
So thank you very much. I'm sorry we're going to have to be short, but if we're going to get some cues in later on, I need to hop to Robin. Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Hey. So, Robin,
Hello.
we just heard from Jon, who is the consummate indie. You've been in a bigger organisation and are soon to break free and be an executive producer and distributor. What we thought might be really useful for everybody, whether you're going to Kidscreen or not, is hearing from the other side of the table. So when people go to Kidscreen, there's always a bit of a rush, and we always spend time looking at the 8-minute pitches. Those pitches happen at CMC, they happen in corridors down in Cannes, they happen all over the globe where people have to go and do their pitch. But at Kidscreen, there's this one opportunity that is really refined to 8 minutes. It would be great if you can tell us what it's like sitting the other side of the table and how people should shape a pitch so that it can land.
Sure. Okay. Yes, those sessions are fun, fast and furious indeed, and they are 8 minutes, and the you'll be lambasted if you go to 9 minutes. So it absolutely have to be well planned. That's the first tip. But I mean, in 8 minutes, your objective really is to set up a connection. You're trying to find a partner for your project. So this is an introduction. You want to do your research on the people who are there, who you'll be pitching to. Find out a bit about them, what works for them, what sort of audience they serve, if that aligns with your audience. What's happening with that company in the news, etc. So know a bit about them, and then go into your pitch. So it's relevant, knowing a bit about them. Keep it very simple. Less is more. It's, as I said, it's a really introduction. You're establishing a rapport. You're looking to set up a longer term dialogue. So don't go fill the 8 minutes with a monologue about your show or your pitch. It's got to be two-way. You can find out a lot of information about that company, what they're looking for, where they and what they need in that 8 minutes as well. How you can help them. So and you might end up pivoting away from your idea and just setting up a really important new connection for the future, because you want to come away with that with a good contact that you can establish long-term dialogue with. Sorry, I just rambled.
Right, that was great. And so what I would say is another question that we have to deal with or look into is character versus story world. So you've got the world and you've got the characters. In 8 minutes, how do you judge which to put first?
Yeah, well, I think you focus on the core concept, the hook, introduce those characters, and summarize the world. You're never going to be able to really get into the detail of it in that time, but you're going to be able to pitch enough in a very excited, passionate way, because that's another thing. So the really important thing to say, you really pick up on the other side of the room the passionate pitches, those with real energy, and that's infectious. So it makes you feel as though you want to be a part of this journey as a buyer. But yeah, you want a little intro to the world, the characters, a sentence or two, setting the scene, setting the universe, and then not much more than that, to be honest. Then leave space for a two-way conversation, so you're starting off that dialogue. Find out if it works for them, what they think of it, if it's hitting the right beats for them, the right tone comedically, all sorts of things you can, or if it's educational enough for them, or whatever your concept is.
And going back to that format again, I think one of the really people go in there and they plan to talk for 8 minutes, and as you say, it's that bit of plan to talk for 4.
Yeah.
Describe it, shape it 3 maybe, and then open it up, ask questions, because if you fill the 8 in your head, you'll fill 10 and you'll get cut off before you get to the main crux.
That's the most disappointing thing with those, is when you're interested in something as a buyer, but you haven't had enough time to ask the right questions, and so you really want to leave time for the buyer to ask the right questions and get their feedback. So yeah, it's half and half. It's half pitching, it's half like Q&A with the buyer, really, I think.
And because we're going to be actively encouraging everybody, wherever you are in the world, whether you're coming or you're not, to be able to use the magic of the corridors. It's something I use a lot around markets. It's those unexpected meetings. And again, it's that, it sounds obvious, but the number of times I've been pitched at in the loo. I've been pitched at 1 o'clock in the morning with me going, now is not the time. You need to go to bed. And so do I. And we'll do it. You can pitch to me after breakfast and I've had some food. I know that sounds obvious, but people get caught up in the moment. What's the best way to build that relationship yet build enough of a connection to get a second chance to talk?
Yeah, I think it is asking questions about, finding a bit about the platform, getting a dialogue going, and getting people interested, and doing your research and seeing the right people as well. So before you go, figure out where your show belongs. You know, what platforms you want your show to be on. Get meetings with those people, in the 8-minute sessions or elsewhere, because there's so many great moments at Kidscreen, networking moments at Kidscreen, whether it's the drinks or in the hall, or in one of the sessions, or just in the corridor, or as you say, queues for the loos. There's so many. No, don't do that. There's so many moments to chat to people and keep it quiet, but and it is quite a fast-moving event. It's like you don't really sit down and have really long pitchy meetings with people. It's networky, and go in with a lot of energy. The other thing I would say is have another idea in your back pocket as well, just in case someone says, "Oh, we've got something like that already, and got anything else?" and if you have something ready to just a couple of lines on something, just to kind of get them interested.
And often it's those other shows that you've got that you haven't actually worked up. People would come to talk to me about shows, and I'd say, no, I don't need any more, name whatever it is, cuddly dogs. We need more. And then you'd say where the gap was, and you could see them whirring in their heads. And they go, well, we've got one, but we haven't written it up. In fact, we haven't done much on it yet. And I go, well, that's fine. That's where the gap is. And if you think that would fit the gap, that's the one to work on. So that's where you were talking about, go and ask the questions. And I think this is the year of curiosity, isn't it? It's
Oh, definitely, yeah. And as others have said today, it's a different time. There's new entrants to the market. Content's going to get funded in different ways. So go out there, be a sponge, meet as many people as you can, fact find, think outside of the normal ways, because you never know where that investment is going to come from, or because it's probably going to come from a new place you've not thought about yet.
So I'd like to bring everybody in if I can. If Darren can magic everybody into the middle of the screen. And I know we've got some questions which are probably more appropriate towards the end. If anybody's got some questions for the speakers, I know my brain was whirring. I was dying to go in there with some questions. If you've got any, please pop them in the Q&A. And while we wait for people to let their brains think and process the amount that they've gone through, Jon, you're the indie, so in a way you're representing quite a lot of the people that are sitting listening. What sort of questions might you ask some of these people in terms of how do I get from where I am to where I'd like to be by next June?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. I think it's figuring out what it's down to where the money is, and I think the more and more the more we go on, the more and more I find myself doing business plans and being a business creator rather than just being a project creator. And I think a lot of the platforms now want you to have that kind of understanding. And I find I need more and more support that way. So I think, what you want to do is talk to them and say, what do you need? What do you, not only creatively, what do you need, but what do you need financially? What do you need to come with it? What makes this an easy conversation to have that you're going to say yes? Because you're not going to get an immediate yes from them there and then. You're going to have to keep that conversation going, keep that relationship going. And I think that's what the point about Kidscreen. Kidscreen doesn't always give you, something directly from it. What you start is conversations, you build relationships, you're making connections. And when you become a known face, they get to know you, get to know the company, Cloth Cat. They get to see you as somebody to trust. And really now it's about those business relationships. How are you going to help them build a brand on their platform, on their channel for the next 5, 7, 10 years? And are you going to be, a good commercial project to invest in? Are kids going to come back and be part of that fan base? That's what I think you want to ask. And you kind of want to get a sense from them now where they see their audience and where they see the audience growing. Because it's no longer, okay, here's a broadcast channel, we serve this audience, it is only this narrow band. Everyone's, building to everybody, and kids have a choice now. They're not just sat in front of one TV and all they got to do is choose between BBC and ITV in this country. Now they've got everything available at their fingertips. And also you're talking to the parents as well and making them comfortable with your animation, your show, your characters as being a good place for their kids to learn from. So I think, what you want to get is their feedback as to what they're looking for and how they see their platform growing, and how can you help them?
So there's the research bit that we talked about earlier, and there's also how do you get near to them? Because we talked to Robin about how not to irritate people. Tatiana is a sort of a conduit. Adam's there with his data, so everybody wants to talk to Adam. But how do you get in there in that crowded market space where whatever it is, whether we're trying to get hold of people virtually, what do you need to do so you get some attention?
I think working in social media. Sorry, you're talking to me now or everybody?
Yeah.
I think it's working in social media. Get LinkedIn. Somebody said LinkedIn is important, very important now. We're getting ourselves on Blue Sky because everyone's moving to Blue Sky. But I think you just need to be visible. And I think it's not a case of there's going to be one conference and you're going to go straight. I mean, some people manage that. That's great. But you've got to just be visible. You've got to be friendly, open, approachable, a problem solver. And you are creating fun projects that kids are going to, click on. I mean, in the end, you're now down to one square on a screen that kids want to be able to click on, and then you're going to be the next on YouTube they're going to watch. It's that so long as you find ways of solving that problem, then you'll be useful to people. And it's trying to have those conversations then, getting into the drinks receptions, being available to wander around the corridors and chat to people. Even if you might not get a meeting with somebody there and then, you're at least saying hello. Don't be annoying. Get actually business cards. I know it's really strange, but I get so much attention just having business cards. People don't do business cards anymore, and I'm like, no, a card is great. It's it's easy to hand over. People remember you, and it's actually surprisingly useful. I still keep all my business cards because actually, digital cards just get lost in ether. Physical cards are good. And then you want to be able to remind them when you see them again. You go, oh, remember me? I saw you at this conference, or I saw you there, or I saw you speak. Can we have a quick chat? And the more friendly you are, the more approachable you are, the more likely you'll get a positive response.
We're going to have to close fairly shortly. So if people have got questions, I see we've got some, but they're mainly about things that we can cover when we finish this section here with Lauren. Adam, you talked about the kids and the long tail. At MIP, people were talking about how if you you needed to bring the kids in on certain channels. So while it was counterintuitive, you actually need the kids there, because on Netflix, etc., they may not be driving the programming, but the subscriptions are driven and people keep those channels if there's kids programming on there and the kids like it. So they're not driving the initial section, they're driving the longer tail. Do you think that's another opportunity to look at where to go and where the content is going to drive revenue for others?
Yeah, definitely. Kids have never been the drivers of acquisition, but they're definitely the retention play. And anyone who looks at one of the the video streaming platforms will see the power of the kid influencing the household decision making, because they know that the parents know that their kids are going to kick off, using a Scouse kind of expression, if they cancel their subscription. I remember in Home, when Fireman Sam was moved from Netflix to Prime Video, went to a house and the mum said that their child was inconsolable because their favorite show was only now available through Milkshake, and that was when the schedule determined, not when the child determined. So I think it's really important that you look at your partnerships. And I think the difficult decision for any IP owner is, do you do this one play deal? Do you go exclusive, or do you go cross platforms? Kids hate exclusivity because they don't understand the economics of TV and production and all of that, because they just think that the content they love should be where they are rather than the other way around. And I think that there are ways around it. I think, the YouTube Shorts, YouTube Play is really interesting. YouTube Shorts for attention grabbing, 10, 20-second little clips get their attention. Then YouTube for the slightly longer play, and then your partnerships, whether broadcast or streamers, for the true episodes or the series. I think that's interesting. I think any brand needs a parent-led strategy as well, particularly if you're in the preschool space. And I know that's slightly longer in some countries than the other. I think, the ability to have a conversation with a parent who may or may not pass that piece of content on to their kids to look at is really powerful. So I think the parent strategy needs to be in tandem with the kids strategy too. But I think, it depends on how many series, how many episodes, you have in the library as to whether you've got the single play or you can do a multiplay with multiple operators.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to wrap up in a second, but Tatiana, just before you go, that YouTube, following on from what Adam was saying, how do you see that changing what you're doing and the type of deals that you're brokering?
I think we are moving much more towards a YouTube first kind of strategy, getting some content, getting some volume, getting animation studios and writers on board early, to all be owners within the property, to get the projects out there, to start building audiences, using the metrics that are available to see that it's really hitting the mark and hitting home in terms of getting the audiences. And like Adam said, shorter version, a little bit longer, so that there's that variety that keeps the kids coming back. And I think using the tagging is important too on YouTube, how you tag your shows. Don't just leave it constricted to what your show is. I heard an interesting comment that was like, if your show is like another big popular show, then use those tags as well, because that's what's bringing people towards you, the algorithms. So I find that that's quite interesting as well. LinkedIn, there's a lot of writers, a lot of people that are available right now that are really, really high quality. Find out who the broadcasters really like to work with, or who have great success record and are doing the kind of projects that you loved. Find out who those writers are. They're probably available and might be open to working with you. So I find shout outs on LinkedIn are really quite incredible in terms of getting responses. So.
Don't ask, don't get. That's what I would say to people. They're worried about asking. It's like, if you ask in a polite way, They can only say no. They can't do any more than that.
And if they love the project, and they see the potential, they can open doors too. So, you need a strong, strong team more than ever. So, and lots of innovation. And ask questions, like you say, ask distributors, ask producers that are making it work, because everybody wants to help, I think. And maybe they'll jump on board if they love it.
So thank you very much. And Robin, thank you very much. And people will be able to get hold of you via LinkedIn, probably is the best one.
Pasture's new for me next year. So after 20 years at Ardman, I'm moving up to my own thing next year. So really happy to
watch this space. So thank you all so much for taking the time and sharing such an amazing amount of information. So we're going to leave the chat open, and I know there are some questions in there that are more specific. So I'm going to pass to Lauren in a minute, and then we're going to go through the answers to the questions that you've been putting up in there. So, Lauren, over to you.
Hello again. So I have just tried to put the slides into the chat for you, but I think it's too big a file. So I will send this round afterwards with everything else in the recording. So just a reminder of the next steps for those that would like to sign up. So the Kidscreen advice clinics that we talked about before, these are small group meetings where members of the UK delegation can talk to me, Greg Childs, or Sarah as well about any issues associated with prep and logistics attending Kidscreen in February. One's on the 6th of December and the 10th of January. I think I said the 11th of January earlier, so ignore that, it's the 10th of January, between 1 and 2. And these are only open to those people who have registered with the UK delegation as they're part of the benefit package. And for those of you that haven't signed up yet, the link to register for the delegation is in the chat now as well. So there are a couple of questions in here, but if you have any more, if you pop them into the Q&A now, any further questions, we can respond to those now for you. And Darren is also just going to pop into the chat the Kidscreen links that we mentioned earlier, but I will send them round as well, so don't worry if you don't get them all downloaded. So looking at the Q&A, I think we had a person ask about hotels. So yes, the conference hotel is very expensive, unfortunately. There's no two ways about it. It's very expensive in San Diego and any of the coasts in America, basically. The Kidscreen do offer the rate of, I think it's $350 per night between the 8th and the 13th of February. And obviously they've got taxes on that as well, which you have to take into account. It is quite an expensive stay, and it is great to stay in the conference venue because you can just go straight downstairs in the lift and you're there and you don't have to mess about. However, you don't have to stay there. San Diego has got a lot of other very nice hotels. There's a lot of very nice areas like Little Italy, the Gaslamp Quarter, one of those. They also have a tram, I think it's called a trolley system, which is really good and it's really cheap. So if you are sort of 20 minutes, half an hour away, it's really easy to get into the venue. You can just hop onto a tram, really is to buy a ticket and you're there in minutes basically. So that is a really good system to use. So I would check out the different areas and Airbnb as well, the usual things. But yeah, if you can afford to be in the hotel, that's great. And I think other question wise, yes, it is being recorded, so I'll send this round. Discount, UK delegation, does part of the UK delegation give a discount on passes? Yes. So if you're part of the UK delegation, you pay the £450 plus VAT to be part of the delegation, and then you'll get all your joining instructions, which will have a discount code for the Kidscreen registration system, and that discounts the pass to $1595. And I think that's all. Oh, one more. What kind of level is the hotel tax? I don't know without Googling it. It might be something like 7%. different states are different tax levels. So I would maybe just have a quick Google because it might also change. They tend to charge city tax as well. I mean, anything in America is obviously the price you're paying is not the price you're paying. So I just researched that beforehand as well. And I think any more questions?
For Julian and anybody else where the volume, because I'm
Julian volume. Thank you,
Julian. I had the same issue. I couldn't hear, and so when the recording comes round, Ros will be in all her glory, and you can listen again.
Rebecca's asked a question about a Taiwanese company. I think maybe that Maggie mentioned.
Yes, I think we need to double check with Maggie.
Yeah, we'll double check, and then we can send that out for you.
Yeah. There was somebody. Somebody came up to me from Taiwan at MIP. So I think there's activity going on there that maybe that hasn't been before. Again, that's why looking at it from fresh eyes, again, just for everybody, looking at the industry, which is moving and shifting, and there are more opportunities, and there do seem to be more opportunities for smaller indies as well as, you know, the bigger indies, that it's shifting in terms of who can go where and who can achieve what and get the money. And another word that we used a lot in the prep was flexibility. Flexibility in what happens when you go out there, flexibility in terms of all of you and how you approach next year. So I think Lauren and I can stay on. So we're going to close the session down, but Lauren and I will stay. And so if people have got individual questions, then they can pop them in the chat, and we'll stay here for a little while. But I do want to thank you all so much for staying on. I think we've had lots of people stay on, and I want particularly to thank the speakers today, right the way through. We've had such a huge amount of value from the people that have talked to us, and hopefully we'll be able to get them to do more in depth later, but we just wanted to give you a snapshot on this occasion. So questions to Lauren and me. Lauren, logistics. Me, Greg, more about editorial. But do use the system, do be curious, and do be flexible. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lauren.
If Andy's still here, Andy Baker, how quick do meetings get booked up? Quite fast, I would say, Sarah. That's true, isn't it? By January.
I would be saying go for them as soon as you can, particularly left field ones. People's diaries get clogged early, and they've got more time to process whatever you send them in terms of why you want to see them right now.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think as soon as that delegate list goes live, just straight on it, isn't it, really?
I'm just looking through there. And going back to the hotel tax, I don't remember it being a massive shock last year. The shock was more in the total number rather than that piece, but I'm sure it'll be there. I think it was Screen Mine, but somebody's asking about the YouTube tool. I think it's a general tool across more than just YouTube, but it was the one thing that she'd seen happen. I don't know if Tatiana is still on and wants to hop in and answer that question.
It's screenminer.com.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Andy's asking, do you have to mini pitch them then? You probably will, rather than, I would say, going and saying, can I have a meeting? And then thinking, well, who are you? Why would I be giving you a meeting? I wouldn't necessarily do a mini pitch about the project and give them too much, but I would talk to them about why you want to talk to them, who you are. Otherwise, they're getting a wall of information. And something that somebody from a previous cohort said he was doing was putting just something slightly different. You don't want it to be tacky, but meeting at Kidscreen, everybody's going to put the same. So you're doing something that just helps you stand out from the crowd, then realise and keep it short, because they also don't want to be reading lots. They want to take a quick look, either send it to their assistant and go, yes, or go, yeah, we'll put it in the diary. So keep it tight, but you do need to give them a flavour of who you are and why you want to speak to them, because the number of people you get that maybe have got the wrong person, and then that's a waste of time. So you need to do your research and then go in there and say, I've got a show, it's in the region that you have, and I think it might well fit into your portfolio, because it's about, name whatever it's about. I hope that answers your question, Andy.
Andy says, is that through the booking system?
Julian's, the reason I'm laughing is he's put a note in here about the tax is funny. There's a hotel tax, and it's a way of potentially locking you into using the restaurant paddleboards or bikes. Or do I remember that wrongly? I do remember that we got quite a lot back. We got last year $15 to spend on food each day. So we did go down to Starbucks each morning to get breakfast when there wasn't one.
Yeah, it's a really weird, like they give you $15 a day to spend in the hotel, don't they? Which
just
look like the hotel gives you that.
Look at the T's and C's. Sasha,
I just had a quick Google, and it says that the current tax is 7.5% in San Diego, but then they also have like weird hotel fees for cleaning. You'd think that would be in, but it's not. So it's like $15 a night on that as well. I think basically it is a bit of guesswork, but I'd go for 10% just to be safe.
I mean, it's great to be in the hotel. And I think Maggie talked about Seaport, and quite a lot of us were going for a walk, because otherwise you're in that aircon quite a lot of the day, and being able to walk down to this little tiny place that's right by the inlet, and they've got cheap places to buy noodles, etc. Not that you need all that as information, but it's not as easy to buy food from when you're in the hotel. As in, there's queues, Starbucks queues in the morning. If you don't hit it at the right moment, which is very early, the queue snakes around and then you'll be late for your meeting. So you need to work out the logistics, but we can deal with that. Julian's asking, the spreadsheet is up and running for booking tables. Lauren?
No. December, which is soon, I know. I'm going to maybe go first week of December. That should be early enough for everybody. And hopefully that'll be when the system opens up, the exchange system. So yeah, I'll send it out next week when it's December. And yeah, I'll send an email around to the delegation with a specific date as well. Yeah.
For those that haven't been, we ask everybody to be circumspect, so that everybody gets fair dibs, because you don't get a table each because they cost a fortune and you don't need them. There are big sofas that you can go and sit on, and there's places now, there's much more space around the hotel, so you can meet people in other areas as well if you haven't got a table. And Lauren will explain that system, but it is both the breakfast, and one thing I would say about the breakfasts it's that point in the day where if you're feeling a bit low, or you're feeling, I've got a whole day ahead and I'm alone, by coming together as a group, everybody supports everybody, and you've got that momentum. So everybody starts the day in business mode. And that's something we talked about a bit during the session, which is this year it's business mode, and I would say a bit Dragon's Den, but generally wherever you're pitching, whether it's here or somewhere else, people are going to want to know far more about the details and what you're thinking and how you would go about making it before they're ready to talk in more detail. So the more you can think through, I say more detail, you just need to know how you would get it made, by when, for what, for people. And prepping how you're going to show it. So again, that's a general market tip, is what you're going to have, what you're going to have available, and how you're going to do your follow-ups. And again, that's for everybody. It's like, how do you then send things to people? What's the deck that you're going to send? Do you have it available so that you send it when you go back to your room in the evening? Do you send it the following week? We can cover that, but just, you've only got, what have we got? 10 weeks before we go, and we've got Christmas in the middle. So starting to think, what assets do I need? And that's for everybody, because next year, everybody needs assets. Everybody needs to be able to hit the ground running. Perhaps not the 1st of January, but second week of January, I'd say you need to be ready to go, having got everything ready, and knowing where your direction is.
Andy just said, is everything through the booking system? So the Kidscreen exchange, it's yes, sort of. So the exchange, you can contact people through it, like it's its own contained system, and you can link your calendar to it and everything. But also what we were saying before about downloading the spreadsheet of everybody and sort of like physical mediaing it and printing off the spreadsheet and going through who you want to meet. There is a little bit of a problem with the Kidscreen exchange where, you know, Maggie was saying about the contacts don't come out on the spreadsheet for you to do your research. So it is a bit of to and fro. So you've got to like identify who you want using your spreadsheet and then try and contact them through the exchange. But some will have their emails on the exchange, which is a lot easier.
And within the spreadsheet, you can look up countries. You can go into some other categories so that you can refine it and just not have to go through 2,000 in one go.
Yeah, you can filter it.
I think it's do your research, and the going through the back articles, etc., on Kidscreen, looking, dare I say it, at TV Kids, who have a mini event before. The more you can get close to how people are thinking now, who's in place and who's doing what, the better. I think we've covered questions. Has anybody got any other questions? We've got quite a few people still here. Any other questions, anybody? I think to conclude, as I was saying, I think the more people we talk to, there's more optimism than there probably was a year ago, but it's guarded optimism in that people are going to have to work slightly differently to get the wins, but they're there if you want them and you're prepared to do things differently. I think getting a Teletubbies is probably certainly not around for a few years, because there isn't the money, there isn't the one broadcaster who's going to come in and take the bulk of the deal. That you're going to have to cut up, you're going to have to talk to experts more. And a lot of them are very generous because they're looking at projects so don't just look at broadcasters, look at the other people in the mix, because one of them might have more experience in an area, have more contacts. And if you look at some of the countries, the delegations, going and looking at those delegations, going, what are the tax breaks that we could have? What would we take to one of those countries? And how would we then use that to bulk up the budgets by probably bringing in a different broadcaster than if we just went solo? So quite often a lot of the deals and a lot of the positivity come out of those other connections.
It doesn't look like there's any more pressing questions. I mean, if anyone has questions about delegations, you can always email me as well. I'll put my email in the chat.
And you're going to send out an email, and you can perhaps put my email in. So thank you very much, everybody. Hope you found it useful, and I hope it's made it clearer as to what you might be able to think about doing next year and how you might go about it.
See you at Kidscreen.